Now, so with regards to trade partners, who would you say Nigeria's biggest trade partners are, and what are some of the bigger exports from Nigeria to the rest of the world?
Well, in regard to trade and whether who is Nigeria's largest partner, we have some, we have countries in Europe. The US also is also a large partner. China is also there. And you find that even South Africa, we do a lot of business with South Africa, and you will imagine that South Africa has a lot of companies there, MTN, MultiChoice, ShopRite, and the rest of them. You have so many companies that are doing business in Nigeria. But this is also predicated on so many things. Now, let me tell you this. When this government came into power in 2015, now, the government was really disturbed about the level of the economic downturn in Nigeria. And therefore, the government has to move fast. It has to review and reposition so many things. And then one thing that the government looked at very closely is the issue where Nigeria has comparative advantage in terms of either production, in terms of services or this thing. And what are the areas that Nigeria really, or the present government centered on? The demography, 188-point-something million people is a huge market, both domestically and internationally. Whatever you produce, whatever kind of services you provide, it's a really huge market for everybody. Now, we look at also the large domestic market and we say, look, why can't we produce things that we can always use locally here? You know, with this comes with a huge and massive labor force, because you have most of the population, or most of the population are young, and then therefore they are vibrant, they can work, they can produce, and things like that. Those are some of the areas. We have abundant mineral resources. If you look back there where my colleague is seated, you can have photographs of that, and then maybe those are some of the few mineral resources that we have now that are untapped. Those are areas that government are looking at. We have a wonderful climate. Nigeria is the only country where you say you drop something, mango seed or something, come back in a few years, you haven't even turned it, it's there, it's producing for you. And that's one of the advantages that nature gave us. And that is very, very distinct. We like that. Then recently also, you can't drive an economy when you don't have a robust domestic financial institutions. Our banks are coming up. They are doing very well. We have very sound managers, and then they are partnering with international banks to provide loans and other incentives for investors who want to go into that. Those are the things that the government is doing at this point. And then above all, whatever you have, you must have the political will. Yes. The political will is very important. It's what drives the system, whether economic or whatever. It is what sustains it. It's what will make it work and what will make it grow. And that is very important in this. So these are the areas that the government have saw as an advantage. And therefore, you have this advantage. What was responsible for the comatose that the economy was experiencing years back? The government, therefore, was very careful in selecting this and say, look, in as much as we want to develop, we must open our doors to foreign direct investments. And this government came up with that policy. Foreign direct investment, well, who do you want to come? You say, no, provided you're a genuine businessman and you've identified an area of business in Nigeria, you're free to come. Free to come. Come and do business in Nigeria, you know, and provided you do business within the limit. And believe me, I have not seen a government that has been so open and so frank in wanting investors to move into their terrain, their country. Nigeria, really, this present government opened up the environment, provided incentives for investors. After reviewing carefully some of the impediments that have been hindering this, some of them, they reviewed them to make them more strong, and some of them, they repealed them outright to make them more strong, so that investors can come, you do business in a friendly atmosphere. Now, let me tell you this. You can go to Nigeria now and go to the Corporate Affairs Commission where companies are registered and have your registration done in 24 hours. And online sometimes you have your registration done. That is a good way of incentive. You have in the mineral sector, solid mineral sector, you find that you have moratoriums or tax rates, the rebate of 3 to 5 years sometimes. And then you have staggered period of royalty payments. These are all incentives that is trying to encourage people to come into Nigeria and invest in Nigeria. I have not seen in recent years, since this government came to be, I have not seen in recent years a country, whether in Africa or in Asia or where it has made investment as a major issue and made the conditions very, very, very plain and very, very simple. And we always have to, we boast that if you are a genuine investor, you can go to any of our diplomatic missions in the world or consulate and have a visa in 48 hours. That is directed by government. So how else can you facilitate this? And all these are part of what government is trying to do to woo investors from outside. And believe me, we are making ways. If you hear stories about Nigeria, since you are going to Port Harcourt, you will see things for yourself, you will smell it, you will touch it, it's all there. You will see it, the friendly nature provided it's business. And we encourage that genuine businessmen from all over the world should come. There's no problem with doing that. And part of what the government did was it selected 3 key areas that also it wants to diversify. The telecommunication, which MTN is doing business there, and other company, Vodafone and the rest of them, they are all doing business there. They are all free to go there and do business. Financial sector, like I said, is one other area that the government focused on. And what it did was to strengthen the base of these financial institutions, the banks. The central bank recently released a statement stating that banks should make loan conditions more accessible and more affordable because the double figures is not helping matters. And therefore, you see, it's part of a deliberate fiscal policy by government to make investors, both domestic at the domestic level and international, this thing, to collaborate and work and then come up with good investment in our country. And the beauty of that is that it will take a lot of the chunk of the unemployed youths that are causing a lot of problems there, causing issues of insecurity and that kind of this thing. The women group, they will be empowered, the youths will be taken care of and this thing. Then cement also is another key area. It is a key area. Limestone is virtually all over Nigeria. And you can go there and establish, unfortunately, that sector is also not properly exploited up to this point. So that is one area that investors can come in and do a lot of business in that area.